What happens as an athlete when your jersey gets taken away from you? What happens when you leave the locker room and you're not invited back? What happens? How do you respond when the scoreboard doesn't replicate the work, the intention, the sacrifice that you've put in individually and as a team? What happens as an athlete when you take that jersey off for the very last time? That's a question that I'm wrestling with constantly, and one that I just got reintroduced to very recently. I've been number 30 for the Miami Dolphins for a long time. Put a lot of blood, sweat, and tears, sacrifice into an organization, into a community, gave my absolute best, and I fell short. The results weren't there on the scoreboard. There was trials and tribulations throughout the season. And we didn't come out victorious enough. This past offseason, I've been released. I was not invited back. Do not get to wear number 30 in aqua and orange ever again. And if my identity, if my self-worth was completely attached to that jersey, what would I be left with? That's a question that a lot of athletes have to figure out. As you're going through the ups and downs of a career, maybe an injury, a torn ACL, adversity, getting benched, all of these things, these moments of adversity that we see in athletics pop up regularly. No journey is perfect. There's no picture perfect sports story, hallmark movie that we want to watch without a little bit of adversity and people overcoming that. So how does identity tie into all of this? The way that I love to describe identity is my driver's license. My driver's license right now has the state of Florida on it. It has a home address that I've been using the last 4 years. It has my name, has my information. Very easy for somebody to identify me with, right? Anytime I'm going on an airplane trip, I hand over my identity, my ID card to the TSA agent. They check it. They make sure that I'm who I say I am, and I get to move forward. But for a lot of people, a lot of athletes, your jersey number is attached to that identity card. Thankfully for me, on my driver's license, I don't have a jersey number, a job title attached to that ID card. And now as I move across the country to California, I'm going to have to go grab a new ID card. I'm going to have to get a new location, a new address, a new place to live. I'm going to have to take a new picture. So when I'm thinking about identity and how student athletes are struggling with identity crises all across the country, I love to discern the difference between your identity and your purpose and where you should put your worth, where you should put your value, what you can control. The biggest thing here is that my identity may change year after year after year, but I'm not attached to that emotionally, spiritually, physically. That identity can change over time, and I'm okay with that. Once I hang up those cleats, once I put that jersey away for the last time, a high school senior taking off that jersey and handing it to an underclassman that's going to carry on that legacy, my identity is not attached to those physical things. My worth, my self-worth is not attached to the scoreboard and identified with wins and losses. It's attached with who I am and how I show up, not just what I do. I think that's going to be extremely important as we dive into this topic of identity, is those three main things, and being able to discern and differentiate, compartmentalize your identity, your self-worth, and your purpose. Why are we talking about identity? Like, why is this so important? Because if you're attaching self-worth, if you're attaching things that you can control, things that you're worried about to external circumstances that you really can't control, that creates this whole rat race. I'm thinking of that visual of a rat running on a wheel or trying to chase a piece of cheese and never being able to get across that finish line. That is exhausting. You're running away from fears. You're fueled by motivation, and eventually that motivation runs out and you are dog tired. There's nothing pulling you towards the best version of yourself. You are chasing an outcome that really ultimately is not up to you. It's not up to any of us. It's out of our control. So for a coach, being able to identify or articulate how important your identity is and how important it isn't, right? How much information and emotion we attach to our identity is extremely important for coaches. Being able to articulate that scoreboard is not representative of who you are as a human being. To value and prioritize an athlete's character, how they show up, why they work so hard, rather than just the output and the results of a scoreboard or a season in the win and loss column. That's the challenge that a lot of athletes, a lot of people in sports are battling with on a daily basis. And I hope that today we can really discern and differentiate what you do, how you do it, and why you do it. If we can do that today, I feel like we all have a chance to be better human beings because of those three different pillars. The ultimate goal here today is to become intrinsically valued. We want to value what's on the inside, not what's on the outside. We want to value what we control, not what we can't control, not those external circumstances. We want to value that character so that we are internally driven. Think about that for a second. We're trying to create athletes that are internally driven, not externally motivated. That is a key difference, and that's what we're going to be diving into today. So, in the Seven Crucibles book, I tell a story about when I was benched for the very first time. I was a junior in college. I was going up and up and up. I was making gains every single year. And eventually, I got put on the bench. I lost a position battle, and I was forced to deal with that uncertainty. I was forced to deal with my thoughts, my inner dialogue, as my identity was way too attached to those external results that I could not control. I was not internally driven. I was externally motivated by the stats, by the wins and losses, by the playing time, by the snap counts, all things that were flipped upside down. And during this introspective period, during these journaling sessions, and in the middle of trying to find mentors that could recharge my energy, get me focused back on what matters most, I was battling a lot of mental demons. And I know that a lot of athletes are dealing with those mental battles every single day. One of the best things that I could possibly give you today is differentiating the difference, or finding the difference between what you do, why you do it, and how you do it. So first, we're going to start with the what. What do you do? That goes back to the ID card, right? Think about your Wikipedia page. Maybe you go on maxpreps.com or NFHS and you're finding your stats. There might be a little picture with you with your high school, the name, the title, whatever job you have, whether it's a head coach, whether it's athlete, quarterback, whatever that is. Maybe it's your jersey number 2. All of those things are tied into your identity. And like I said earlier, those things can change. That is what you do. Those are the external circumstances. The amount of touchdowns you've scored, the amount of wins that your team has had, those aren't in your control. Those are what you do. And a lot of people stop right at that level. That is the top surface level of how we identify one another. And a lot of people stop there. I'm going to challenge everybody today to dig a little bit deeper into what we can actually control and where we should be putting our value. Because that what is very shaky ground to try and build a house on, right? We're going to build a foundation of identity and healthy mindset so that we are building a strong foundation to build a great house so you can architect the perfect life for you. You can be the painter of your own perfect, to be able to create something that you're proud of and chase something that is the best version of yourself. So if we get past the what and we remove emotion from that, we remove attachment from our ID card, that little driver's license that can change anytime you're asked to leave the building and not come back, just like I have to do with the Dolphins right now. And we go down one level further. Now we're digging into the how we do things. Now those things we can control. How you show up on a daily basis is a lot more tied to your identity, a lot more tied to the relationships, a lot more tied to your team, a lot more tied to your character than just what you do. How you do it is so much more important because you can control it. That is a decision, an intentional decision, a deliberate action that you can take any single day. How am I showing up for myself? How am I showing up for my family? How am I showing up for my teammates? How am I showing up for my classmates? How you do things is so much more important than what you actually end up achieving. Let me break that down a little bit further. If you're having a good day and things are going smoothly, you're just the most cheery person in the world. Things are going great. External circumstance, we're on a win streak. All is good. You know what? I'm going to show up to this weight room and I might not give it my best effort because we're all good. Like, we're winning. People are successful, right? I'm doing my job. The lack of consistency or intentionality behind how you're showing up every day can ultimately lead from that winning streak to turn into a losing streak really quickly. If you're able to articulate, define, and deliberately decide how you show up on a daily basis, and this is something that's non-negotiable, you can decide to show up with a good attitude. Wins, losses, does not matter. Those external circumstances aren't impacting you. You are deciding to show up and be a positive change, a positive catalyst for growth within your team. That is something you can control by your relationships, how you communicate to people, showing up with a smile, those little things, living in the margins of making sure you're introducing yourself to the coach, waving hi to the front office person, making sure that you're shaking somebody's hand and asking them how their day is going. All of those little tiny decisions along a day becomes a habit. And if you're controlling that on a regular basis, how you show up becomes routine. It becomes habit. It becomes positive. If you're focused more on how you're showing up rather than the scoreboard, what type of teammate do you become? How much more accountable do you become? The proof is in the pudding. If you're showing up regularly, upbeat attitude, deciding to be positive, maybe it's you're in the car waiting to go into work today. Maybe it's going into school and taking a deep breath and deciding how I'm going to show up over and over and over again, non-negotiably. That is a standard that you can control. We're not worried about the scoreboard. We're not worried about external results. We're worried about what type of character that we're showing up to the workplace, to the school with. How you do things is so much more important than what you do. People will be able to identify somebody that is articulated their how, that has taken ownership of how they show up every day. When I look at my running backs or I look at my quarterbacks and they're showing up intentionally, they're doing things the right way, and somebody asks me what it's like to play with some of these guys, I don't describe the touchdowns. I don't describe the big plays. I don't describe how many Pro Bowls they went to. I describe the type of human being they were. I describe the relationship that we've had, the relationship we've cultivated over time on task, doing things together for something bigger than just ourselves. People aren't going to remember what you do. They're going to remember how you made them feel. Maya Angelou, one of the greatest quotes you could possibly have, and that thing is very, very prevalent to how you show up every single day for your teammates, for yourself, for your organization, in the weight room, in the lunchroom, on the practice field, and ultimately when the lights are on. Because if that habit is worked through during the week, then you just get to play. Then you just get to execute. Then you get to enjoy the performance that you've put yourself in a position to enjoy. So now we've had, what you do, very important, but not as much as how you do it. And the third level that we're going to dig into is why you do it. And I know that identity and your purpose, they're very, very closely aligned, but they're different. How you show up every single day is a habit. It's a routine. It's a decision that you have to make. But why you do it is that jet fuel. That's the motivation. That's the determination that allows for you to push through when times are toughest. When I tore an ACL, I'm sitting on the sidelines and I have no idea if I will ever be able to be a football player again. I'll never know if I get to put on those pads, put on a helmet, put on another jersey again. What did I first have to do? I had to determine and decide how I was going to show up for that rehab, how I was going to be a dependable teammate, how I was still going to remain a team captain on the team while not being able to play on the field. That's a tough decision. You have to wrestle with a lot of these thoughts, the negative thoughts of why me? Why me again? How come this happened? I do all the right things and I don't get the right results. All of those questions are constantly going in the back of my head, even though I had clearly articulated how I wanted to show up for the people around me. Your purpose statement, your why, that allowed me to put all those negative thoughts to bed. That allowed me to put value in why I'm going to do something for the long haul. It gave me a North Star to chase day after day, month after month, quarter after quarter, and year after year. Your why is at the very level of that foundational meaning. If you can articulate a purpose statement, your why, and you have value to that, that is like jet fuel in a supercar. You are able to bust through so many hurdles, so many obstacles, and enjoy that journey and process along the way because you've articulated and you've owned and you've done the internal work of defining your why. My why is to inspire belief. I want to inspire others to believe in the best version of themselves. Why is that? Because I had a really, really hard time. Why is that? I had a very difficult time growing up through high school, college, to the pros, in truly believing in the best version of myself. It took adverse times to identify that purpose. But as I dug deep and as I worked through all of the things I needed to work through internally and what mattered to me most, I figured out that I needed to believe in the best version of myself if I was ever going to get there. And through that work, I found a purpose in helping others do the same. It was one of my weaknesses that I have been working quite a long time to turn into a strength. So when somebody asks me, oh man, how are you working so hard? How is that consistent approach? Like what makes you show up time and time again there and accountable for your teammates, for yourself? Whether it's a practice on a Wednesday or it's game day on Sunday. How do you do it? Why do you do it? I can say I'm trying to inspire belief. I'm trying to inspire belief in myself, into my teammates, into my family, into my community. That purpose statement, that why, has gotten me through an ACL. It's gotten me through getting released. It's gotten me through worried about that identity card that I may or may not have to change year after year. It allows for me to be consistent and authentically myself. So why is this all important? Why is this all tied into identity? Because 9 times out of 10, a lot of people are talking about your identity like that driver's license, what you do. And I'm here to tell you that's just scratching the surface. That is the least important. A little bit more important than what you do is how you do things, how you show up consistently. And finally, it's your why. It's that purpose. It's what's going to pull you through tough times. You remember that wheel, that rat that we were talking about, where you're just trying to chase that cheese and you feel exhausted after you may or may not get whatever's at the end of that finish line for you? That third level, that why, that is the most important thing. When you think about that rat running on a wheel, trying to chase that cheese, whatever's at the end of the finish line that you're chasing, that championship, the state championship, all conference, whatever external circumstance or external reward or accolade that you are chasing, if it's not coming to you when you think it should, when you aren't getting that delayed gratification quick enough, you get exhausted, you get wore down, you get mentally fatigued, all of that. What's going to pull you towards those goals? What's going to pull you towards all those accolades? It's going to be your purpose. You're not chasing anything anymore. You're not externally motivated to go do this work. You're not spreading yourself too thin. You're living internally. You're living from the inside out. You're focused on why you do what you do. And then you're controlling how you do it. The what, that identity card, that all takes care of itself. I love to think about NIL nowadays. Think about the most marketable people on the planet. Who do you want to spend your time with? Who do you want to spend money on? I know everyone wants to make a quick buck in NIL right now. Who's the most marketable people? Who do I want to spend most time with? The people that are actually themselves, the people that are authentic, the people that aren't trying to front or pretend to be anything that they're not. The more authentic, the inner work that you do to identify that why, that core belief, and then you're controlling with consistent habits how you show up, might get a better NIL deal, might get a different check. It's not because you were doing it for the check or for the marketing deal or for NIL in the first place. It's because you did the inner work to be the best version of yourself. The external stuff, that'll all take care of itself in the long run. But you're not worried about that. You're internally driven, not externally motivated. And that's the key difference here. So if we can take all three of these pillars, the what you do, the how you do it, and the why you do it, and we work from the bottom up, right? We're going to identify that why, that purpose statement, what drives you, what pulls you. We're going to put a lot of effort and attachment to that internal work. And then we're going to build great habits and routines on how you show up. And we're going to intentionally decide, we're going to deliberately act upon everything that we can control internally. Our effort, our attitude, our service to those around us. Those are all things that we can control. And we're going to let go of the what. You are going to let go of that driver's license. We're going to let go of attachment of any identity that's at that surface level. It doesn't matter. What matters is who you are. What matters is why you do what you do. That's identity in a nutshell. As a student athlete, being able to do the internal work first, work at the ground level, and build a solid foundation, one after another. You can build that dream house of yours. You can be the architect of your own life. That's the ultimate goal. We are learning life lessons through sports, and your identity should not be attached to that jersey. And the funny part about all of that is when you take that jersey off, after doing all that internal work, you have left that jersey in a much better place than where you found it. To finish up, I would love to just hash out a few reflection questions for you all to get jump started on identity. Something that you can journal. Maybe it's an audio note in your phone. You can type it out or you can write it out. But these are a few questions that I think we should all reflect upon as we're trying to chase the best version of ourselves as it relates to identity. If your sport was taken away tomorrow, who would be left? When I say who would be left, I truly mean you as an individual. If you aren't able to define yourself as athlete anymore, who's left? The second question, does your team know what you value the most outside of their talent? Let me dive deeper into that one. Have you communicated to your teammates what you value most about them outside of skills, outside of ability? Their character, how they show up, their attitude, their effort, their caring nature. What do you value most? And have you said that to your teammates? And finally, I'm going to challenge you to identify how you're going to measure wins and losses outside of the scoreboard. How are you going to measure success outside of the wins and losses? I think we can all find and identify, have a little bit of awareness around what success looks like outside of the scoreboard, outside of that win and loss column. Find 2 or 3 things this week to identify as successful outside of the external results, internally driven. That's what we're going towards.